Squid fishing can be epic in Puget Sound when you know the right conditions. Today we're going to dive into everything you need to know to catch a squid, from the best tides and weather to the perfect spots to set up. If you're ready to fill your buckets with fresh squid, then stay tuned. Understanding the tides for squid can be extremely important for an angler, especially one who is on the piers. You have high tides and you have low tides, in most of the cases, 2 times in a day. This means you have one during the daytime typically and one after hours. So you got to congregate around the times that are going to best get you your squid. Now, general rule of thumb, the time of day can be better at night because these squid are going to be coming in closer to shore to do their spawning in the winter. So, most cases, if you can find a tide exchange around or after dusk, you're going to potentially have more success because those lights off the piers or the ones that anglers bring are going to draw in the plankton, they're going to draw in the bait fish, and they're going to ultimately draw in the squid to all that to be feeding and getting ready to set up. So that all draws after dark the squid into shore. A high tide with some movement of the current can really affect that too by bringing in potentially more squid. And the low tide, don't rule out, can also bring squid in too. A rule of thumb is typically that hour before and hour after the tide exchange generally stays true. But what I have actually seen play out in my own experience is that any tide can have squid. It's just a matter of, are they going to pass by the pier at that given time or even later. Sometimes you've heard the story of, oh, I left and then, oh, it turned on right after I got off the pier and in my car. You never know when it's going to happen, but you can generally stage around the tide exchanges as a good rule of thumb, and that will help you. Now, how do you look up tides? There's a couple different ways you can do this. From your browser, if you're on a computer, you can go type in the tides for the location you're going to go fish. Edmonds, Seattle, Tacoma, and you can go look at the waterfront access areas to get your accurate tides. There's also a bunch of apps, and I'll show you this one right here. This is what I use. I usually just do Edmonds as a generalized idea and know that it's pretty close to that if it's down in Seattle or down further. So I generally just use one location and I judge it off of that. That's how our tides affect us. Now let's talk about the weather. Now, ideal weather and squid fishing don't always go together, right? In the wintertime especially, you have these squid coming around in the times where our weather systems change dramatically. We have wind, we have rain, and potentially snow and cold conditions. So, when it comes to weather, don't be discouraged if you see don't be discouraged if you have difficult weather conditions or patterns coming. If it's really rainy, sometimes those can be the best times to get out there and squid fish. Other times, it can be calm and clear, but a little bit cold, and it can be lights out. It's more a condition based upon time of the year to go, and don't let the weather conditions upset you. If you have time to go and you know it's based around when people are catching them, then just go. The weather system is not going to impact things too crazy for your squidding success. The only factor with the weather is if it's been raining heavy for a long period of time and you have rivers that may be flooding or components like that dumping into the salt water, you might get the squidding to slow down for a little bit because there's too much fresh water coming into some of those pier areas. However, again, on a normal standpoint, a few storms or cold weather, it's not going to impact the squid. Sometimes those are the best times to be out there. So the weather, don't let it change you. Just go out and fish. Now, when you start talking pier locations, not all are created equal. Some are too shallow, and some don't even have any light sources at all. So you want to congregate your best choice to go out and catch a squid based upon not just popular areas, but areas that you know that are known for good squidding. This can be a little bit of research to figure this out, or asking some local tackle shops, or even searching on social media. But you're going to find areas in Seattle, Tacoma, and even Edmonds that have good piers with great access to deep water, but they have light sources as well that are going to help bring in these squid. Because I will tell you, you don't have to bring your own lights. There are some nights where you're going to have really good success with just the natural lighting of the piers and not having to over pollute the water with additional light. I've had some extremely good success in the pitch black with just using the glow in the dark jigs because the squid came in close to the pier. They weren't scared by all the people and all the other commotion. They were just there to eat. So, that being said, picking your locations can also be based upon the time of the year. If you're early in the season, keep watch and maybe even keep a log of different areas you know that may get their squid first as they start migrating through the sound. Squid truly only live, I think I saw up to a year, maybe 2 years old, so they don't have a long life cycle, and they're coming through the sound to do one of two things. It's either eating or it's get ready to spawn and die based upon summer or winter seasons. So those squid are coming into the system, they're coming in close to the piers to do that, and you can intercept them. So picking those locations, it's November right now in 2024. Your best bets are going to go hit the popular spots in Seattle, Tacoma, and your Edmonds area because it's on right now. So location wise, just go find the spots and put in your time. You will get your squid. So now we've put all the pieces together. We've picked our location, we've picked our time, and we picked our tide. Okay, let's put this all together with the proper technique in jigging these squid up. Now, I've talked about in a previous video on jig selection and technique as far as all those things go together, but it needs to be said on how you jig these jigs for the squid to make sure you're maximizing your success. One of the things that I found to be really helpful is I will pitch the jigs out, flip the bail open, and let one entire rod length of line out and close my bail. You'll see it right here. That jig then free falls on a taut line, which means that I have tension on that line as it sinks. You can slowly twitch that as it comes through, but you get to a point where that jig's going to free fall like a pendulum and come directly in front of you. And then you can just slowly jig it. The squid will tell you what they want, because sometimes they want a cadence where it's really rapid and jerky, and sometimes they don't want it to move at all. Frankly, the last time out, I saw a person next to me who was doing really, really well on a small, slight twitch, and I found success on not even moving my jig at all, and just waiting to feel the bump of the squid to lift. Now, once you feel that squid, it's more of tension, whether either you're on your lift up to jig it, you're going to feel weight. If you feel weight, you just start reeling. You don't have to set the hook or anything, but let's just say that your line goes a little slack. That's also an indication of a bite, and you want to make sure that you quickly reel in the squid. So paying attention, having a good setup that has good sensitivity is going to be key to detecting these bites because they're not always really hard hitting. Sometimes they are the softest little sniff as that squid engulfs your jig and pushes it up. A bonus tip for you. This will help you catch squid no matter what time you're out there. Watch the locals around you. Copy exactly what they're doing if they're the ones catching squid and you aren't. Either they have a different color or depth and a jigging motion that you may not be doing. Every indicator of your success can be all around you, and all you have to do is just pay attention. Sometimes it means not squidding for a few minutes and watching what the other people are doing that are catching and then implementing that. Then it's all up to you and having fun. And if you guys want to see all of the jig selection and how you rig these things up, check out the video right here. Fish on!